alternative. There's nothing that says we can't have 2 meetings a month. We could do second and,
Just the time slot, by the time we get started, it's just too fast. We're not gonna get through what we got.
so you just want more time
More
in
time.
a particular meeting, so we can do it on Saturday.
Yeah, we're eating on time, yeah.
I mean, we could do it on the seventh,
Yeah,
On the
you
first
can do it on
Saturday.
March the 7th if you wanted to.
first Saturday of the month.
Yeah, there's some big blocks and things I think we could, y'all could identify.
So that'll mean we won't start the 4-hour blocks in here until after that meeting. Because we'll need this.
The other thing, and just, or suggest you not to take it, but for example, San Antonio has what they call an A meeting and a B meeting. And in the A meeting, they discuss everything, the staff presents, the options, they hear citizens, they do a lot of that. And in the B meeting, they take the votes. So it gives you one meeting to kind of chew on it, really discuss it, maybe even make some preliminary decisions, and then some time to think about it. And then the B meeting, or then you have a meeting where it's mainly votes that have already been vetted, discussed, and chewed on a little bit. So that's also another structure that other cities do. And it gives everyone at least 2 meetings on each issue.
Now, you're having your citizens at both of these meetings?
It's an open meeting, you have to-
Yeah, they're open meetings, yeah.
Okay.
But for example, at the A meeting, they'll have, let's say this health and safety ordinance, and know a little bit, lay it out, here's the proposal, everyone can dig into it. And then, like I said, even at the B meeting, questions can be asked, but like you mentioned before, maybe 90% have already answered in the first meeting.
But I just didn't want it to end up to be something like a,
Town hall.
like going into executive session. That always gives the appearance that you're hiding something from the public. And I just never liked those, but.
San Antonio does that weekly, so it's a very
Yeah,
different scenario, which
I-
is one example of the thing, but
I've got 2
for
boards
now,
on
just having a
my
big meeting is also.
retirement that they do it constantly, and you have no idea what they're doing in there. And it bugs you. So, yeah, as long as the public is available and can see what we're doing, I have no problem with that.
So we can do this on the 7th then?
Saturday, March 7th.
March 7th,
What time?
9 to 5, he
9
said.
to 5, 9 to 6, with a break for lunch. I mean, what do you want to do?
But that doesn't mean we have to stay that entire time if we need
Okay.
to.
And we can break,
Yeah.
we can break for lunch.
Okay, that'll work.
So,
Yeah, you don't have to sit here until 5 twiddling your thumbs and get
I'm
done.
putting with lunch.
okay, so the motion is to hold special, we're calling it a special council meeting
Yes.
on March the 7th to address unfinished business or new business if it arises.
We'll have prepared agendas, so try to, you can also put more things on there that,
Right,
if we have time, we'll get to these.
okay.
And then reminder also that it requires 4 for a quorum, so if you can't be present, let folks know, so we can make sure there's at least 4,
Also, it's because it's a special
because
meeting.
it's a special.
So the motion was made.
I'll second his motion, yes.
Okay.
March the 7th.
Mr. Tremblay has a motion on the floor for a 9 to 5 meeting on the 7th of March, Saturday. And break for lunch.
That's right.
Seconded by Mr. Gay. All those in favor? Okay, this is one of the specials where we only have 4?
We have to have a minimum of
Yeah,
4.
we have to have a minimum. Okay. Okay. That carried unanimously. Okay. Agenda item 10, discuss a requirement that the agenda being, the item stating unfinished business, never heard of that, be listed on all agendas in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order. Tremblay and Ball, I never heard of it.
Okay, as we adopted Robert's Rule of Order as our rules for conducting business, under Robert's Rule of Order, newly revised edition, 11th edition, page 358, items on an agenda not addressed should be on the next meeting agenda and listed before any new business is listed.
Does that mean stuff you didn't get to?
If you began to discuss it and it wasn't voted on, yes. If it was listed on an agenda and it wasn't, you didn't get to it, it's unfinished business, goes on the next agenda.
And at the top of the
Before,
list.
at the top of the list before you list anything else.
Okay.
I've
So
got the
the
little,
stuff you didn't
I got the little
get to?
cheater book if you wanna look at it, but the whole edition, the whole book is
Well, actually, I have
quite
one.
lengthy,
Yeah,
but that's where it's listed if you wanna, look it up. But, that's where it's at, and that's my motion, is to list unfinished business prior to any new business on the agenda.
There's an attorney general opinion on this. You can create a category like unfinished business and list agenda items, but the agenda items have to be specifically listed. Because under the Open Meetings Act, there's the requirement to give the public.
Right, and that's what,
So you just
the
can't
item
put
will be listed, the whole item, not just say unfinished business, and we're gonna talk about all this stuff when you get to it. It'll be, item 1 will be item 7, unfinished business from the previous meeting. It'll need to be listed as,
It'll be itemized, right?
Right.
That's why we get clear,
That's
right?
very
So
similar
you can't
to
say
what
unfinished
we're
business,
doing
but each
now.
item is specifically listed.
because there's no such thing as old business, it's just unfinished.
So I'll make sure everybody knows it still has to be the full agenda item.
Right.
And, yeah.
Okay.
So if there are not any issues, I make a motion that we,
I have one more clarification. There's two ways to amend the agenda procedure. This is basically an agenda procedure. One way would be a resolution, which is kind of what we're doing right here, or we could amend the ordinance to require it, which is the stronger way to do it. And then basically, then the city clerk is tasked with, when she compiles an agenda, she's creating basically an agenda category called unfinished business and relisting everything that should be on there. So again, I'd recommend doing an ordinance or amending the ordinance, otherwise in 2 years or something, it's hard to find just motion.
right, yes, so, I mean, we don't have those items yet, but when we get to the point where we have expenses and money brought in, we should have a budget on item
Right.
as well.
You can have
at the beginning
standing items
of
on
each
the
meeting,
agenda.
right,
Right.
and we should follow that
Consent
format.
item, like we've added consent item.
So for example, on this, we could add a section to the ordinance, which we put together that says unfinished business. The city clerk shall, on the next regular, the next regular agenda, place any items that were not, either not, this is where we need the definition. What is an unfinished business? It's something that wasn't, we ran out of time, we didn't get to.
An item that was addressed but not voted on, where we didn't have time to vote on it, or an item that was on an agenda and wasn't brought up, we didn't have time to get to.
Or what about items that are postponed?
If it's postponed, I mean, if you're postponing it in accordance with the rules,
It
you're
can come after
postponing
the
it, it can
unfinished
come
business.
again, but it would have to
Got
be,
it.
if you're postponing it, you pretty much addressed it.
Got it.
If you're tabling it, you're putting it,
It's done.
it's done.
Yeah.
If you're postponing, then and you don't set a date, then it's kind of just hanging there. You can bring it back any
But I
point in
think
time.
according to the
Well,
rules, a postponement means the next agenda.
Typically, and we have this weird, well, because you have the state law on top of Robert's rules. So, right, in a normal meeting, a non-public meeting, it would come back. In a public meeting, it has to be firmly put back on the agenda. So the way to kind of mesh the two is doing what Ms. Tremblay suggested, is requiring that it be firmly put back, and just do it by statute, or do it by ordinance, rather than practice, so that it's required. Logistically, I just don't want to get a situation where the clerk was like, I didn't think that was coming back, and the council member said yes, so it would be clearer, and you don't have to take this, it would be clearer if it would require the council to name them. So let's say it's 5 minutes till the meeting's adjourned, someone makes a motion to put all remaining items on the unfinished business, and then that ordinance requires the clerk to put it in, nobody has to submit them to her, or we have to be fairly descriptive, like, and I can see, for example, an item that wasn't voted on, it can get ambiguous. But it's the will of the council. I'm just trying to give some clarity to the ordinance.
Should they be listed chronologically as they appeared in the previous
I don't think
agenda?
as long as they're on there.
It's whatever you wish, I mean,
Well, I think if we pass an ordinance requiring it, the clerk prepares the minutes. And so she has the minutes and she sees what items were addressed and what wasn't. And if she comes to, when the items are, she no longer has verbatim to put into the minutes, then those items go on the next agenda. So, I mean, we can do it as an ordinance requiring the city clerk.
But we have an ordinance already, what you're suggesting is amending the existing
right, we
ordinance to include this.
added a section that describes this.
And then
Describes the unfinished business.
The unfinished business section said the clerk shall,
so we would make that like,
And hopefully this will get us to where we don't lose in the shuffle these
right,
agenda items that never seem to come back up again.
if you put them at the beginning, you may have a very long unfinished business. But, and the council can always change the order by motion. Someone can say, well, we have this important new thing, let's do that first. So you can do that.
They drive off the road for the place.
I just want to make sure the clerk had clarity, because I've seen situations where, especially when council start, not necessarily getting along, I just want to make sure the clerk does exactly what she has. So if somebody says, for example, if we say, we're going to take no action, is that an unfinished business item, or was that a item where no action was taken?
right.
That's probably the most common scenario in the community. So if we decide to take no action, the council does that for different reasons. Sometimes they take no action because they discussed it, it didn't seem like, sometimes they take no action to get more information. And I hope I'm not muddling them, I'm just trying to think.
No, because I was thinking the same thing on the things that we did a, action taken.
If there's no action, I mean, if we bring it up again, it's still
Right.
gonna be no action.
Right.
No action is probably not the correct way to address the agenda item. It probably would have been to table it rather than
Or,
no action.
or instead of saying no action, I want to bring it back, if that's your intent to bring it back, then maybe you can, at a practice, you can say, you can take a motion to declare it unfinished business, but then you have to take a vote on it. I don't know. Or we can keep it simple, see how it works. If there's an issue, there's a mea culpa, you have to create a rule.
So we should do it as an ordinance.
Amend our
To
existing
amend the
ordinance.
existing ordinance.
Because it's helpful to have, you want to have all your agenda procedures on one location.
Right.
So if someone's trying to, they don't have to find 2 or 3 documents to figure out how an agenda is put together.
And so we should add this to the whole part where the mayor prepares the agenda and agenda items are submitted, signed by 2 aldermen, and agenda, all items not addressed during the council meeting shall be listed on the following meeting agenda list prior to any new business.
Shall be. I just want to be sure of the exact verbiage. It's on the following regular meeting, or the following meeting, on regular meeting?
Following regular meeting.
And I think getting them up at the head of the meeting is a good idea too. Don't just stick them anywhere, just put them up.
No, it should be before, like, she's got our agenda, item 1, 2, 3, 4. It will be item 4, and then citizens to be heard,
Well,
it'll be number 5, and the consent agenda would be pushed below that.
we could also,
Yeah.
if we want to give it a little more structure, we could also say the agenda shall begin with call to order, invocation, pledge of allegiance, citizens to be heard, unfinished business, consent agenda, and then all other items.
And every other item, yeah.
We could also do that, so there's a structure.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, why not?
Does that work?
That makes good sense, don't you think?
Just helps to
Gives you a good
clarify.
template to work with.
And that way we can just say, it should be placed on the regular meeting, after citizens to be heard.
Right.
And then we know what that order is. I'm just gonna read it. So we're gonna have a new section in the ordinance that says, it's called unfinished business. And it should say, do we want this to be for regular meetings or even special meetings?
All meetings.
Any meetings, okay.
Okay, well, that changed,
I-
because we were talking about
I think
regular.
regular meetings only, because a special meeting, we only call it when we have something very specific that we're addressing. But I think
Yeah.
with regular meetings, it should
We
just.
should be taking care of anything that's part of it.
True.
But isn't the special meeting you're gonna have on the 7th all about agenda items?
It will have an agenda, yes.
Yeah.
And some of them might be broad, like workshop on whatever, public safety or marshals. Okay, so it's gonna have a section called unfinished business. It's gonna say at all regular meetings of the San Diego City Council, all items not addressed shall be listed on the following regular meeting agenda after citizens to be heard. And then there'll be a new section that says the regular meeting agenda shall contain item number 1, call to order, 2, invocation, 3, pledge, 4, citizens to be heard, 5 would be unfinished business, 6 would be consent items, and then 7, all other items.
Right.
So we have a list. So the motion would be to amend the agenda procedure to be
I
this.
motion to amend the current
Ordinance.
ordinance, that it be amended to include unfinished business to be addressed prior to the meeting, as drafted.
As- And I will second that.
Mr. Tremblay has a motion on the floor to modify the existing ordinance, unfinished business, seconded by Ms. Ball. Those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 11, discuss placing a secure, weather-resistant bulletin board at the entrance of the Waterwood subdivision for posting of council meeting agenda and public announcements. Alderman Tremblay and Ball.
I think Ms. Ball and I have discussed this in the past, and now it's just become more of an issue, being that we don't really have a place to post our agendas. Jack's, I guess, was the most identifiable place. Everybody knew where it was. But if we can possibly put this at the entrance up there, somewhere where the Waterwood sign is, maybe in the rocks there inside the walls or something that's waterproof. I know I'll go out and solicit some bids. I think Mickey's Alderman Ball's already started looking around and talking to some people, and whether there's a cost involved and we need it donated, or someone pays for it and donates it. But I think it would just be a better place for us to post items that are of interest to the
And I have
citizens.
talked with somebody who they sent me a sketch of what they came up with. So we were thinking of something that was two-sided, so we want to be sensitive to traffic flow. There's a section between the very front part that says Waterwood, and then there's a gap, and there's another part of the brick thing, and it's, I guess you could do a U-turn there, but that's really all you can do there. But it's far enough away from the main entrance that if we put it so it's on either side, if you're coming or going, you would be able to see it. And then have it made out of metal post and plexiglass, and he hasn't given me a price yet on it, but he did give me a sketch on setting something like that up.
What size do you propose?
Something like 3 by 5, I
3 by
think.
5.
Something large enough that we could probably
Right.
make these bigger.
Right.
the print meter.
Oh, I see what you're saying, blow it up big enough that you could actually read it sitting in your car if you're
Yes.
driving by. Okay.
I sure get a bunch of letters back there.
That would take a pretty good size sign.
Yeah, takes a
Yeah.
4x8, yeah.
I would only caution that if you do obstruct traffic flow,
Right,
someone gets rear-ended, goes with
Right.
liability, that you may look for an alternate location.
right.
I don't know, you may want to approach the Dollar General.
And we can discuss that later. I think we just get to the point where, let's do this, and
I'm just saying, someone like that may want it, it takes people to their business.
Right.
And when they're parked there, they might
And
go
they
in and
have
shop.
parking.
Right, so maybe at the edge of the
And it
park.
also includes the other people that don't come in Waterwood.
Except for
Good
the ones
idea.
that
Dollar
Priest
General's a good
Road.
idea.
That's what, yeah.
Dollar General's a good idea.
One on the other side.
Right.
They don't need this stuff.
Never know until you ask.
So in addition to the price, maybe want to come up with a couple of possible locations.
True.
so I think we move forward with, getting some prices, and, look for a good area to put it, but, yeah, this
Check
might
out
be an
some-
issue, putting it there, people stop to read it,
Right.
and they hold up traffic.
Right.
But, I think we can move forward with the fabrication of it.
Okay, would you follow up on that, or?
Yeah, we'll work it, to this, and if anybody else wants to, knows anybody that
Offer
could
any
make one,
input?
sure.
Yeah, and any
Do
of us,
that by something waterproof, collected glass, we can clean it.
anybody in the community could
Right.
assist in this item, sure.
So I'll just make a motion that, we're gonna accept this,
Accept the idea.
the idea, and,
Is that a
work with
motion?
it, and plan on putting
Accept
it.
the idea?
Plan really
You do
need
nothing in this unfinished business.
No. No, we want to keep away from that.
You can approve it, or you can even authorize someone to be in charge of it, or I mean, if you want to actually take a physical motion.
Say we just endorse it or something like that.
I can bring my book with me. You got
It's
the book.
falling down anymore.
You wanna
What's
look
the
up a word?
official motion here?
Well, I mean, we're just gonna move forward with the bids, and we can come back with a cost, if there is a cost. At
Okay.
this point, let's just say we all
So-
agree that this is a good idea,
Yes.
and
Proposals can be brought.
proposals, we'll await proposals.
So David and I will kind of lead that and do a little bit more research on that one.
If you put it on the agenda, you get nominated to do it. Cool.
See how that works.
Okay, so this is just a working
Yeah.
item.
Working on it.
We'll bring it with some unfinished business. It'll come back.
Or when we're ready, we'll put it on the agenda again.
Okay. So if anybody has any ideas and stuff, they can get to either
Contact
you or.
us and
Yeah. Okay, sounds fine to me. Okay, so we don't even have to vote on anything here. This is an ongoing item, working item. Okay, item 12 on the agenda. Discuss additional franchise fees available or collectible by the city to refer application process to the city attorney. I've been kind of toying with this, especially with saws. They're a tough one, but I don't know whether or not they'll bend and come in our favor. But Mr. Puente is a pretty tough litigator.
Okay, well, I know if we're getting them from CPS, we should be getting them from Saws, we should be getting them from AT&T.
Yeah.
I think we need to address it, and so see, I would just,
Centerpoint Energy in there also.
Centerpoint, okay. I mean, we need to look at everything that's available, and we need to go after them.
how do we identify what all the options are?
A franchise fee, when you really look at the technicalities of the contract, it's a road maintenance or road usage fee. So it's any utility company that uses our public roads and public rights of way to maintain their line. So it's you know, telecommunications, gas, water, sewer that we don't have, and electricity. CPS was in my experience, is one of the more friendly ones. They have it worked into their cost structure already, and they give us a pretty good deal. SAWS, several years ago, decided they would no longer, that's their policy, they would no longer enter into franchise agreements with entities. That doesn't mean we can't approach them and try that process, because they are using the city's roads. The other kind of devil in the details things to look at is most utilities will say, oh, fine, just tell us what you want, and they'll add that as an additional fee on the utility rates. CPS was very different. They had it worked in their cost structure, so the rates didn't go up. So when you negotiate, or as you approach utility companies, you kind of want to, that's one of the most important questions to ask. Is this a additional fee being added on, or is this coming out of the existing fee structure, and rates aren't increasing? And so most companies, or most utility companies, when you approach them, they're quick, oh, we have a standard agreement, and it's usually of the latter where they're adding on a half cent or a cent or whatever it is for that industry. The other telecommunication tax that's available is, well, there's a telecommunication tax which by default is exempted in municipalities, and that can be repealed. Again, that does increase the cost, but that's a tax on cell phone usage, you know, wired flight cards, anything that's cellular type communications. Most cities have repealed those exemptions, but that again is an increase in the actual tax or fee for the user. So it really comes down to sitting down and trying to negotiate with them, but the willingness, you know, the willingness, you know,
Does TML have a guide? I think they had a book.
They do. They have lots of guys. They have one on franchise fees that kind of explains how they work.
Yeah, revenue opportunities or something, I forget what the name of it was.
And most utility providers aren't getting a windfall like San Antonio was. So that's just the reality. But we can start. I mean, we can start by saying better for everyone. Most utilities have a standard franchise agreement because they offer it the same to everyone. So those can be looked at and as a starting point, and then trying to negotiate with the best or equitable for the residents.
What about the trash companies?
The trash companies, those are typically negotiated if you give a award a trash contract, which can be done. The way that typically works, just again, structurally, is the city will set up a permit for a residential or commercial trash or solid waste company, and to limit the number that can be issued to one. So then you can put out bids for that permit, and in there you can negotiate for a franchise in the rate. In my experience, if you go from a scenario like you have now, we have multiple providers down to one, you can typically both lower the fees, the average fee being paid, and receive a franchise just because of density. So the trash companies, if they have every house on every block, it reduces their cost of coming in here, and so they can offer a lower rate. And so that's probably your best place to go first for a franchise fee that isn't going to impact what people are paying already for their various utilities. And there's a possibility that it could go even lower. The other thing it lets you control are things like fuel surcharges, which aren't as big of an issue today, but they were a few years ago. And who knows, the price of gas might spike again. But a lot of companies do fuel surcharges, and so you can cap those or limit them or on those as well. So there's other protections you can put in on a garbage contract.
May I ask for the city clerk to investigate the book? You know, I can't remember what the name of it is, and I'm gonna go find out, but I know I did a little research on there, and it's revenue opportunities.
I wrote down revenue opportunities and franchise.
Because it might be
fees.
something the city might want to, it was inexpensive, $10 or something like that.
And it's something, this might be a good candidate for our day-long meeting on Saturday.
Right,
They can come in, I can bring a sample garbage contract, we can explain process, and y'all can chew through all the, perhaps the requirements you want for the bids. And then maybe we can even bring back some more information on the different utility providers. We can make requests, okay, you know, gas is offering this, and these are their standard contracts.
What does that limit, does that allow other trash companies to come in here, or is it just, that's it?
Yeah.
That's the one
It depends on how you structure it, but typically that would be the only thing provided. Some cities can break it into two. There's a residential solid waste provider and a commercial. We have very few commercial, but they can also be on the same, so the contract can deal with both residential pickup and commercial dumpsters. The thing that's typically exempted from that are roll-off dumpsters for construction sites. Those are typically not regulated.
Is there a one-time?
In fact, they're exempted from the state law. So you may give, let's say, I don't want to name a company, but company X can have your contract. You may see a company Y roll-up dumpster at a construction site. And those are exempted because they're considered temporary for construction.
I do have another question, related to the franchise fees. Do we have a tax number yet?
Yeah.
Tax ID number?
Yeah.
Okay, the reason is, we got a phone call today from CPS, they'd like to send us a check, but they need a W-9. So
Perfect.
could you put a note on there? I think I forwarded that to you.
Yeah, the check's there.
Okay. So we can make sure we have W-9s to send to these people.
Good problem.
The shortcoming with that is the bank, because I tried to get
It should be ready tomorrow afternoon.
government type, bank account.
It should be ready tomorrow afternoon. The account should be established tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
What about the controller's sales tax audit?
He didn't know what I was talking about. I was gonna do it with you.
Okay, we probably need to call higher up the food chain, but we're gonna want to, well, as we mentioned the last meeting, we want an audit from the comptroller, which is to address the issue that someone raised. They'll come in and make sure that every business is actually charging the correct sales tax. If we call the local office and they didn't know, you may have to call Austin.
I emailed the lady. It's not.
And they might use a different terminology, but
Well, that's what I went
if
back.
you need help, we can get on the phone and do that. But they do it periodically themselves for spot checks, but one can also be requested.
So
And we had them do that.
what happens if, who is responsible for getting the tax, the sales tax, the business is notified that they need it to be? Is that the
The
comptroller?
comptroller's office. And then they're the ones who audit it, make sure it's collected.
And
But if
so
it's not being collected, then
there's nothing that we can do to.
you can't retroact because it's a point of sale collection, so you can't, you have to find every customer. So, yeah, you want to have that conducted as soon
My
as possible.
business is here, and I've gotten no notice from the comptroller, and usually you get it 2 to 3 months ahead of when
Right.
it's actually collected, and I've gotten nothing.
When I filed mine this year, it had the 8.25% listed on it.
Now, when we set up the business permit structure, that's another thing that the clerk does. So if someone comes in and says, I'm opening a business, whatever rules or regulation the city council adopts, she makes sure they're in compliance with, and one of those is, are you charging the proper sales, show us your sales tax. So that's the safe guard method for the city, is the business permit process. And if they're not, and they can adjust it, or if they refuse, they can call the comptroller, and they have a police
So
force.
who's gonna contact the comptroller on this one?
For what?
So,
For the audit,
Yes.
I'll call him.
okay,
And if they tell you again, they don't know, just let me know, we'll go up the food
Okay,
chain, so
okay, yeah, 'cause
the
that's-
comptroller himself.
And will the comptroller be upset that y'all made an illegal amount for sales tax?
The sales tax that was passed was 1.5%,
Plus,
Plus a quarter.
it was 1.5.
there was
One
a
plus
half.
a half plus a quarter.
There were three
Total one.
propositions, I know what they were.
And then the fourth being via.
Via.
We're
We
reporting or
had
being
originally done a 1%, then a 0.5%, and we had approved a second 0.5% that was supposed to be for roadways. But that 0.5% couldn't be done because VIA already had their 0.25% in there.
No, you had
Via's a
half.
half.
Okay, well, I was told that it was 1/4%, and that's why we did a 1/4%.
You didn't do a 40%, you approved a 0.5%.
When you approved the 0.5%, you also approved a 1/4%, let's face it. A 1/4% is a part of it.
You approved a 0.5%.
Okay,
You
well, I'm
didn't
not
vote
gonna argue.
for a quarter.
Okay.
But anyway,
Who told you it would be able to quarter?
We'll clarify it and bring it to the council.
Okay, so for item 12, I'm going to make a motion that we postpone this item until the 7 March meeting, that it be placed on the 7 March agenda
It's unfinished business.
as unfinished business.
Number 12.
Number 12.
Mhm.
Okay, that was a motion by Mr. Tremblay. Postpone,
I'll second.
Ms. Ball. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to postpone this to March 7th meeting from Mr. Tremblay, seconded by Alderman Ball. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Item 13. Discuss and adopt a resolution making the Emergency Services District, ESD 6, the official fire protection service for the city of Sandy Oaks. Alderman Ball and Tremblay.
Mr. Tremblay and I attended the ESD monthly meeting back on January 27th. And I know we're new at this and we'll get better, but one item of note, they went through 18 agenda items in 1 hour. Yeah, there's hope for us. But they did share a lot of really good information, and one of the items that kind of came up in discussion outside of the meeting had to do with the tax code as it stands today, rules where services are provided. And there was a question about having a memorandum of understanding or some type of agreement in place with ESD 6 to continue to provide services to the city of Sandy Oaks. If you think about it, San Antonio doesn't get services, the city of San Antonio does not get services from ESD 6. But in their ETJ, they are, as I understand it, they are working with some contracts to have services provided. So it's not city services, but the county's going to provide that. So the whole point was that when the day we became a city, then we are responsible for our own fire protection. Now, this could have been part of the interlocal agreement where there is some discussion around you get 3 years of service. I do know in talking with members from ESD 6 that they're not going to not show up. That's not an option. But from a tax perspective, and the 2015 tax notices are not out, but we run the risk of not having fire protection services because we're not paying for it if it's not included on the tax.
I did speak to the appraisal district, I think I mentioned that to you. I did speak to the appraisal district, I spoke to Kurt Menking. And he told me he has not been instructed to remove City of Sandy Oaks from the ESD tax laws.
Okay.
Either we would have to request to be removed, or the ESD would remove us. They could remove us. That's what I was told. But either way, if we're going to remove it, it's a referendum item. It would have to go to the voters to remove the ESD.
Yep.
It's not something that we as a city council can do.
And the concern that we have with that is, I did talk with the elections office, and February 27th is the last day to have anything put on the ballot for May.
The reason why when San Antonio annexes and grows, the ETJs retract is because there's an interlocal agreement for that with all the ESDs. The county required when the ESDs were set up. So, and then when the ESDs were set up, or if a city incorporates after an ESD was already established, it does nothing to change the ESD. It's a special district created by the voters. So there's no automatic carve-out provision. There are provisions in the ESD code on how a community can carve out, but it requires a vote by both entities. And so there should be no change in tax rate. The ESD is still obligated under state law to continue service. There's no difference. Now, the city has the option to create a municipal department, where you can even do like sheriff and marshal, create a supplementary fire on top of what ESD has, but there's no automatic with removal from a suburban city, because that interlocal agreement doesn't exist, as it does with San Antonio. So the rule for San Antonio is very different, it's unique, and there's actually a provision in the state code that's only for San Antonio, and it allows that, an enabling statute for that. So, I mean, it should be an issue if the ESD has concerns, we can talk to the attorney and clarify everything, but they're the primary until an action is taken to actually remove us.
And in order for that to happen, it would have to be a ballot initiative, yes?
If we initiate it,
Right.
that's what I was saying, if we initiate it, then it would be a referendum item.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I was told that they could, if they wanted to, they could come up and say, well, we're not gonna
So
have
that's-
this district anymore. But if you look at what their
I don't think-
their mission statement
yeah.
and what they're responsible for, if they're handling everything.
To change their jurisdiction, I'd have to look into that, but I don't think they could do it just by a vote of their
But at
board.
this point,
They have to be
according to
by
the
election.
appraisal district, we're still paying the tax. If we're still paying the tax, then I said, this is a, I mean, this isn't, I mean, yes, we make them artificial
and-
ESD.
and
our
as
fire-
odd as it
fire
sounds,
protection.
Fire service is not a service required by law. That's why there are volunteer fire departments, all, because there's no, people are kind of shocked, but there's nothing in the code that you must provide fire service as a city, or a county.
I would think that we approve this, making them our official fire
It doesn't hurt.
protection
Well,
service.
right-
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Right
And
now,
that we go forward and initiate some type of memorandum of understanding with them. just
well,
to
right
make
now, the way
everything-
they collect taxes here in ESD 6 is sitting right in the middle of almost 50% of all the taxes collected in ESD 6, right here. And pretty soon, what the program is looking for, and talking with Commissioner Rodriguez today, they're planning on 3 ESDs combining into one, with the problem of one ESD out there that sits right in the middle of it. And the 3 that they're planning to bring in under one umbrella is gonna have a gap somewhere along the way. And I don't know which one that is, maybe the one down in Somerset, I'm not sure.
Well, and while we were at that, it might be a good idea to bring this up, but they're also where they have their station now, right here on 1604, the individual that owns that property is contemplating selling. And they are not sure that they're gonna stay there. They're actually talking about building another station, is what they were talking about. So I think we really need to address this, we need to accept this.
Aren't they I mean, whether we pass this or not, they're still our,
Well, they are, that's what I mean, but all we're doing is, we're just gonna adopt a resolution of our emergency services. Okay, that's all, I mean, we're paying for it, so
Yeah,
it's
we're
kind of a
paying for it.
no-brainer,
Right.
really.
That's what I was saying, it's a no-brainer.
I mean, I would
I mean-
I'd make a motion that we adopt a resolution making the ESD 6 our official fire protection service.
But it already
Pretty
is.
dry.
Well, but I think we need further clarification on that, with the memorandum of understanding.
Right. That's what I'm saying, if we
Yeah.
can go forward and.
You could reaffirm it rather than making.
My concern is that if we don't have something that says, yes, this is who we want to provide our fire service. There's other players out there in those organizations, don't know who they are, making decisions. And we could be at risk, and I think if we
But,
were able to present them with memorandum of understanding, this is who we want. We're paying for it, we want to keep it.
right.
But
Yeah.
right now, doesn't ESD two provide our fire protection?
They're a backup. Primary is 6.
Mm.
So I know they've been having staffing, you may be seeing other trucks because of backup.
ESD 6 is contracting with ESD 2 to provide a lot of our fire protection right now, yes.
We do have a citizen in our community who now sits on the ESD 6 board.
Who's that?
Now, when you do your MOU, I mean, there's other things that can be discussed. For example, this is clearly the population center in the district.
Right.
So having one of the new stations built in proximity or in the city, there's all kinds of things that can be discussed. At some point, we're gonna be doing fire inspections. I know we've
Right.
in contract with them to provide those fire inspectors.
Right.
You could also try to have them, since we are more dense here, to do fire hydrant flow tests on a regular basis. So, with that, I mean, with that, resolution's fine, but we could also perhaps add it to there, on the resolution to, you know, like the mayor, or it could be the whole council, whatever, to sit down and try to see if we can negotiate an MOU that kind of clarifies more specifically some of those things, like, we would like ESD 6 to build a station or a substation in the city or proximate to the city, we want them to, you know, that type of thing.
Then I think what I'd like to do, I know you've made a motion, can we change that?
Yeah, you can
You can amend.
What I'm thinking is that we make a motion to discuss this one on our March 7th. I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to probably cover. And
Okay. Well, the other thing is since it's a posted meeting, you could at that 7th invite ESD 6 commissioners, not for 8 hours, but from noon to 2, or whatever, to
Oh,
come
no,
out.
9 to 5.
Yeah, they have a workshop, we
We
can
gotta be
discuss
here,
some
they
of the
gotta-
stuff.
That's
So,
right.
firemen are usually good cooks, you know.
That's true.
There you go.
Don't
Do
make
we
too
need a
much.
permit for that?
That could be part of that discussion.
Okay, so I make a motion that we move this to March 7th. And we will extend an invite to ESD 6.
We'll be here from 9 to 5.
First,
So this is going on as unfinished business.
yes, it will be unfinished business.
More.
Like all fire meetings, you get into a really great point, and the alarm goes off, and everybody runs out the room.
Right. Yeah.
Do that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Understanding we get 2 motions on the floor.
I'll rescind my
You
motion.
rescind your motion?
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that's-
Because you have a
Yes,
substitute
you're right.
motion, we have to work yours first. Okay,
Okay, so he rescinded his.
okay. We have a motion on the floor by Alderman Ball to move item 13 to the March 7th meeting. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Who seconded?
I'll second.
Oh, my God.
So we need to back up and do it again.
Done. Okay. Item 14, discuss, consider, and approve a resolution to establish a city emergency management plan. Tremblay and Ball.
Okay, this is, in order for us to establish, we need to join the county emergency management program, and there are some steps we need to do to make that happen. I've been speaking with Kyle Coleman, who I think you all know, and he has been gracious enough to provide me with the information as to what we need to do. And I would have loved to brought everybody all the material he sent me, but it's like close to 200 pages, and I was printing all that stuff. So I've got everything on a CD, and you have to look at it, but matter of fact, you can pass those down. Do you need this?
I'll get one.
I mean, I have one, you can
Okay.
have one. As well,
You got one for Joel?
yeah,
Okay.
as well, and here's a cut sheet on the items that we need to, what we need to accomplish. The first
CD
step,
and one piece of paper.
the first step in doing this is, we need to join the county program. We need to first establish our own program. And we need to pass a resolution adopting that we will adopt a county management program, emergency program. There are a lot of things that, responsibilities that fall on the mayor as far as he end up being director of our emergency management program. But I guess the first thing we need to do is we need to approve a resolution that we will adopt or establish a city emergency management plan. And the reason for this would be so that we can address any issues that come up, such as, let's say we had a large fire out here, all these trees. We had a tanker go down the street and exploded. There was an accident. We had houses catch fire. We have a cinder block, or cinder.
It covers natural disasters also,
Natural
right?
disasters, hurricanes. I don't know if we have any flooding out here, but
Whatever the storage tanks are.
the storage tanks down the road. So those are just, and in our developing our plan, we'll identify all those hazards and means of addressing anything that would happen with that. So, again, the first thing to do is that we all agree that we will establish a city emergency management plan. That's the first part. And next week, we can knock out the second part as well, and that is we approve an ordinance adopting the National Incident Management System, which is it's called NIMS, as a standard for incident management by the city of Sandy Oaks. And all of the information that we need to do that is on that disc. And if you individually would like to get it printed, I think it cost me about $17 at the UPS store to get it all printed. But it's good. It's good to have. It's good information. It'll help us in developing our own plan. I do have some more stuff here, which are informational for the mayor as far as and I guess the attorney to look at this as well. These are samples for the, we'll also have a joint resolution with the county that the county judge will have to sign. The mayor will sign it and the county judge, Nelson Wolf. And we have a sample city ordinance adopting NIMS.
Is that NIMS kind of like the building code? It's just something everybody follows?
Right, all the cities use it, right. Mm-hmm. So if, I didn't make copies of all this for everyone. I'll give these to the mayor. Yes. But, and this is probably another thing we'll have to work on a Saturday, because it's gonna take a little work to get done. But I think it's important that we knock it out, especially, my concern is the oil tankers. I mean, we get one of them things out in front of a house somewhere at an intersection, it could be disastrous.
We have no idea what kind of hazmat rolls down New Mathis Road, one of the fast tracks.
Right.
And Sanford Oil, they're in our city, right?
The-
Sanford Oil there, they're right next to Jack's?
Dillon.
Not Sanford,
Dillon.
Dillon?
Oh, Dillon.
They're not in the city, they're not in the
They're not-
city, they didn't fall within our
Oh,
jurisdiction.
so
That's,
it ended at Jack's?
Right,
Oh,
yeah, on that side.
I thought Dillon was.
I
Are
do
you
Dillon?
sure?
Dillon
Dillon,
is not in San Diego.
it was on the map, I thought.
Don't think so, no.
Huh. Probably not,
Look at it again.
because,
I'll
probably
get-
not
I'll
because
get
they
the
have a
map out.
highway.
I'm sure I have it here,
So that's probably why they come down.
I've got the meets and bounds at home.
but no, I don't, Dillon is not, but we'll get their traffic up and down
Yeah.
Priest Road.
You can see Priest Road, what it's done to it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, and, yeah, just off the record, I
FYI.
contacted TxDOT about fixing the road up there on,
On Priest
Charlie
Road.
Valero.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're supposed to be coming to take care of
oh, good.
it. So, if,
Oh, that's-
I make a motion that we, approve both items, 14 and 15, if there are any.
I know there's draft ordinances or draft resolution.
Yes.
One is
And
a
it-
ordinance and one's resolution.
There's also some on the disc.
Oh.
Everything is
I
on the
think you
disc
got
as well.
stuck with mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you
The little-
holding all the copies?
The little cut sheet I gave you is what I got from actually from
these are all-
Scott.
Oh, they are, okay.
I just wanna make
Did
sure
you
we know
do
we're.
draft ordinances and resolutions?
Those were provided by Kyle.
Is there a
That-
draft?
Kyle
Oh,
did
that's what
those.
Jim
Yeah.
has, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Kyle did it. They actually say San
I
Diego.
think there's a draft.
Oh, I didn't see
Nice,
it.
okay. Jim has them,
Okay.
he's reading them.
So I do, like I say, and I do have a point of contact, Mr. Mayor, you know Kyle Coleman, I have his phone number as well as Scott Lambright, you know Scott? Scott works with Kyle, and both of them would be more than happy to help us with any issues and questions we
Yeah,
have.
they were very helpful today in the meeting we had. with
They're
them.
talking about a Form 47, but I think that's something that's probably something I gave you there.
Yeah, there's a Form 147.
147.
Emergency Management Director, Coordinator,
That's,
Notification.
that's you. And then you can assign someone as a coordinator as well, and we can have a committee, and the committee can actually be the actual council. So I did read some of that stuff, but I tell you, it's, when you put it all together, it's not a speed reader.
Exactly. The city marshal could also.
Exactly, yeah, any city employees, not citizens unfortunately, but it says city employees.
This is one thing that we really need to consider.
Is this part of the city master plan?
Emergency management often isn't, that's more of an infrastructure, but certainly it needs to be done. Coordinated with the county. Most emergency response is coordinated regionally.
And he did mention that there is a requirement that all the cities who actually belong to the program vote to accept you in, but he's had a lot of luck here in the past. He's had luck just bypassing that and getting the county judge or the district attorney will usually bypass
Yeah,
that.
but
But it is a requirement within the Texas Department of Emergency
Yeah, but I don't think,
Management, the
after
manual.
that meeting this morning, I don't think that was a problem, the other cities.
So it's, my motion is that we accept both items. Can I do both?
I would just do one at a time.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
Motion is to approve a resolution to establish the city emergency management plan.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to establish a city emergency management plan. Motion from Mr. Tremblay, seconded by Ms. Ball. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Fast.
Item 15,
I think we've covered item
We've
15
covered that.
pretty much as well, so I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance adopting NIMS as a standard for incident management by the city of San Diego. And with that, the application with the county, we will prepare jointly on the March 17th. Because our ordinance isn't necessarily the one that's going to go to the county, this is just that we will adopt NIMS. Second.
I will second.
okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Tremblay to approve an ordinance adopting the National Incident Management System, NIMS, as the standard for incident management. Austin, and some of their fees is gonna wow you. So,
Have you not heard from,
and I have one that was an email, and I told them I prefer a hard copy in the mail.
and then there was the one that I spoke to on the phone and gave her your information. You haven't received anything
No,
from her yet?
no, I haven't received it. And I had another one also that said that it was a woman that was going to send me a hard copy, and I'm still waiting for it. But these this was like an eruption out of the TML posting. Within half an hour of the posting, this lady here came up and gave me a call, so we want to, as BJ pointed out, in some of the materials she gave me also, there's a lot of law firms out there, and we want to give them ample time to know that we're serious about what we're doing, the business we're doing here in this city, so I would be open to a cutoff date to do this, but we need to have a cutoff date that would come prior to a meeting.
Well, I was thinking this, considering all of the submissions
Austin, and some of their fees is gonna wow you. So,
Have you not heard from,
and I have one that was an email, and I've told them I prefer a hard copy in the mail.
and then there was the one that I spoke to on the phone and gave her your information. You haven't received anything
No,
from her yet?
no, I haven't received it. And I had another one also that said that it was a woman that was going to send me a hard copy, and I'm still waiting for it. But this was like an eruption out of the TML posting. Within half an hour of the posting, this lady here came up and gave me a call, so we want to, as BJ pointed out, in some of the materials she gave me also, there's a lot of law firms out there, and we want to give them ample time to know that we're serious about what we're doing, the business we're doing here in this city. So I would be open to a cutoff date to do this, but we need to have a cutoff date that would come prior to a meeting.
Well, I was thinking this, considering all of the submissions